This episode of Vending Machine Isekai may have gotten lucky. Or maybe it genuinely got better, but I was in a good mood when I watched it, and I didn't hate my time with it.
Nah, this one was one of the better ones, and not like in the everything else is so shit that like this mediocre episode is like wildly better by comparison.
I mean, it kind of is.
Well,
A
yes,
little
but
bit.
at least there was some. So this isn't like an episode 8 situation where it's like, oh god, there's like nothing happening, but it's still the best episode. That's like one of the better episodes of the season. Like it ends up in the upper half of the episode list just because by default. This one had a little bit of F. Well, maybe I hesitate to say effort. Heart. It had a little bit of heart.
Yeah, specifically in the second half of the episode. If it was like more of the first half throughout, it would have been like perfectly middle of the road for this show. Like, at the very least. Okay, I need to say this right now. I can't believe how happy I am to be out of that fucking maze. I didn't realize how much I hated the maze as a setting until we were out of it. Like, I was legitimately so relieved to be out of that stupid maze where nothing happens of any interest and where it's just this. It's the same wall over and over again.
It's where all creativity goes to die.
I can't believe we were in that maze for 3 entire episodes.
Yeah, it's now that we are finally like it's back to business as usual. If every episode of the show were of this like level of quality and this kind of feel good mood they can put you in, I feel like we wouldn't be nearly as soured on the show as it went on as we have become.
It would be like a 6 out of 10 show, like
I don't
perfectly
know about
acceptable.
I don't know about that good, but
Well, if it was more like the second half, it would be a 6 out of 10. Maybe if there was too much of stuff of the first half's quality, it'd go down to a 5 again. Like, the second half is shockingly pleasant. So
remember how I said that the Archer girl is gonna end up being the Sumi of the show, where she only gets a spotlight at the very end of the season, and my premonition has come to pass.
Yeah, so we're finally introducing Shui properly. She has sort of been a thing for the entire show, but
Just
she
there
has
in the
not done
background.
anything. Yeah, she's been a background character, and her gimmick is that she eats a lot, and so
Which
of
is
course,
hot.
she's
mean,
okay.
She
fine.
she herself is not hot. I'm just saying any woman who loves to eat, that's a positive.
Okay, so it's just a thing then.
Yeah.
But
It's I say hot like jokingly. It's more of just a character trait that I find appealing. It's not like, oh man, this character like fucking scarfs it down. I'm getting a boner. No, it's just like, oh, that's
I can't
cute.
say I have the same boner for characters who eat a lot.
It's just like always a fun gimmick to be like, oh look, this like slender petite girl puts so like inhales, like has a black hole for a stomach.
So the way the show introduces her to the plot proper is by having an eating contest where like as soon as they mentioned eating contest, I was like, okay, the silver hair girl is absolutely going to be in it. She's going to return. This is going to be focused on her. I actually thought what it was going to be is like Lamis would be surprisingly good at eating and would get into a heated competition with Shui.
See, that would
nah,
make
Lamis
Lamis
sucks.
too dynamic. That would give her too much agency in the narrative. We can't let the women have too much agency.
That's a very cynical reading of that narrative decision.
I mean, it also could just be the writers are hacks and lazy, but I prefer my interpretation.
It would give the eating competition more weight, dynamicism, like things going on, things to be invested in. I mean, come on, it was right there. As soon as Lamis said she was entering the eating competition, I thought it was going to be her versus Shui, and then she
OP
just kind of
just has her holding a shit ton of snacks every time. So like, yeah, she's the
I've
eating
skipped the
girl.
OP every time for the last like 7 episodes.
I listen to the chorus at the beginning, and then I skip it once the title card shows up because that's when the chorus ends. Because everything
Well, there
past
you
that
go.
is horrendously bad. I This is the only time I'll probably be able to remember to say this. In the opening, there's this one shot that breaks the 180 rule where Lamba's like is waving to the what they call the Menagerie of Fools, and she's like looking to the right, but then the camera like mirrors in the next shot, and she's like walking off towards the left. And I'm like, how do you fail at the most basic filmmaking rules?
It's been so long since I've watched the OP, and it's so unmemorable that I genuinely do not remember what shot you're talking about.
Yeah, you'll have to remember to watch
I
it
might
like near the.
have to go back to it after this episode. God, it's been like probably well over 2 months since I've looked at the OP or even thought about it. So
Yeah,
we have the eating competition, which is, by the way, this thing to get back at the Chains restaurant. Still love the Chains restaurant.
Jeff Bezos can never hold a W in this town.
Yeah, it's a marketing scheme in order to get back at them. And there's not a whole lot to say about the eating competition. It just kind of happens, you know.
We see the grand return of Condom Lady. I
We do see
pogged.
her grand return. When I saw her come back, I thought, like, is she gonna be like surprising? I mean, the characters are surprised that she's even in the competition, but I was gonna be like, is she gonna be like one of the finalists, maybe
Is she
along
gonna be
with
like a
Lamis and
sleeper?
Shui? Yeah, sleeper hit, because that totally seemed like it could happen. Not really. She's there. That's kind of the entire eating competition. Really, it happens.
Speaking of characters who are there, I feel like I definitely would have remembered seeing this character before, unless the show is just so bland and forgettable that I have seen her before and just can't for the life of me remember where she's from. The girl in red with the purple hair and the red glasses. Was she like a thing? Because she has too much of
She
a design to have just been a one off.
The thing is, I had literally the same thought. I was like,
Have we
she's
seen her
very
before?
well designed,
Yeah,
but I
she's not an
don't think she's
NPC.
been in the show before. I think this is
It's
like her introduction.
is this like a Yo-Yo-Ko thing in Bocchi the Rock season 1 where we see a character who will become more prominent in the manga later as like a Marvel cameo before yeah, like properly get introduced to her, or is this like just
I
uh,
have to assume so.
or is this like a thing where I assume that's the case because there's no way it's just a thing of the the character artist just like, hey, you know what? Let's go ham on this one NPC character that ultimately won't matter at all. Like surely she's got to be a somewhat prominent character later on.
Oh, I mean, this show's NPCs look like dog water. There's no way they're gonna waste time designing an actual character only to not use her. So I imagine she's coming back. I like her design. It's one of the better ones in the show.
All right, well now we got to address the controversy, the big controversy surrounding the episode. What the fuck was up with the soda bottle? Why did it say zero sugar?
Oh yeah, you were. See, I didn't. I didn't read the soda bottle, so I didn't even notice until you pointed it out to me.
Like,
I
is it's got to be like a legal thing, right? There's no way they're that.
No, no, it's not illegal. You can't trademark zero sugar. What? That
I
doesn't make
mean,
sense.
I
How
feel like
you're just saying it has zero sugar? You can't trademark that.
see that's I was thinking that same thing too because that makes more sense than no way this like TV production let a typo this embarrassing slip through the cracks.
They literally do that commonly in anime. This is a I swear this has been a
Is it?
thing in anime for a while where like
Because they spell
sometimes they just
calories
suck.
correctly, and I would say calories is the easier word to mispronounce if you're a foreigner than sugar.
Yeah, but like okay, but why would zero sugar be trademarked but not zero calories? That literally doesn't make any
That is
sense.
true. Unless they mean to say it contains no remnants of Suger, the French statesman, confidant to King Louis VII. But somehow I doubt that that's what the intention was.
I think it's see, I feel like you're giving the production too much credit. You're saying, "Oh, there's no way they would air something with a typo on TV." This is vending machine isekai though. Like, do
Yeah,
you
like
really think the
that's
quality
what all the
control
signs
is
point to, and just like that's embarrassing. Like you got
in
to
the
make a
show's
TV show.
defense? It's not their native language, but at the same time, what totally happened is that some animator like wrote it down based on limited English knowledge, and then it didn't get corrected because they did not have the time to correct it. That's gonna be my theory.
It baffles the mind. It baffles the manta.
This baffles the manta. But after this, we get to actually good storytelling, where uh, fuck, what's her name?
Shui.
Silverhair's name, Shui. Yeah. See, I'd remember it more if she were a character before this, but basically, she wins the competition. As soon as it was her versus the band of gluttons, I was like, okay, she's obviously winning because she's the cute
Okay,
girl,
hold on. But
and it would be
before
funnier for her to win.
before we move past the eating competition completely, I need to talk about this. What the fuck was the point of even introducing the concept of a theater program, and then immediately cut to black, have text on screen that says the program ends, and just the characters like react and comment on it?
I guess it's to show that time passed,
Was
but
it like
you are
supposed to be a
right.
joke?
It doesn't feel like a joke because there's no punchline.
Yeah, I thought that like maybe some characters that we knew, like maybe some of the guys in the Menagerie of Fools, like we're gonna put on like a little play to be like, oh, look at these characters that are usually portrayed as like cool and aloof and competent, being like putting on this goofy, silly theater production. There's no joke. They just say, hey, here's a theater production we're about to show you. Oops, just kidding. Cut to 2 hours later. They What was the point?
I mean, to be fair, you can say that about a lot of things in this show,
Yeah,
where
but
they just kind of
what about
happen.
what's the point of even like suggesting that there will be a theater production, set it up, and then do nothing with it?
There is no point. I'm completely with you on it.
I
Just like there's
Is this like I wonder if this maybe was in the novel and got cut? Cause if you wrote this in a book, like there's no way you can get away with writing a scene like this in a book. Cause like that's just shit writing. Like, oh, I will go to the
in a
trouble.
book, it would be even worse because you'd have to set the scene with like at least
You'd-
a
yeah, you'd have to
paragraph or two.
Yeah, you'd have to set the scene and then proceed to be like 2 hours later, and then talk about nothing in regards to the production, and just say, "Oh yeah, that sure happened. Yeah, that certainly happened."
You don't understand, Neon. It's subversive writing. It subverts your expectations. You think something is going to happen, and then it doesn't. This is actually genius. I don't know what you're complaining about.
You know what? I was writing in my Bochi intro that I do like media that surprises me, and I guess I was, by all definitions, surprised.
You know,
And
I like it when things surprise me too. I like it when you watch a show expecting it to be bad, but then it's good. I like seeing scenes where you expect there to be something and then there isn't and it just moves on. I like it when there's a person who jumps out of my closet with a knife and tries to kill me. You know, they're all surprises.
I like it when I'm walking down the street and I happen to, stumble upon someone tied up in a little shed that I had nothing to do with, but who's gonna pass up a free, shed tie person? Certainly not I.
I'm gonna pretend I didn't hear that.
Um. All right, yeah. So that's the food thing. It ends, and then we get to a little bit of heart.
Yeah, so we go out of nowhere. We go to another stratum with like no build up or fanfare, which took me really off guard.
We're
Cause
going to the
I
origin stratum, which is the very first stratum floor of the dungeon. You have to, in order to get to any other stratum, you have to first pass through this first one. And if you can't make it here, you can't make it anywhere. It's like reverse Hollywood.
yeah, and it's like it's the best world building of the entire show by far. Not to say it's great, but it's at least like the beginning of an interesting location. Like there was something here.
Yeah, this is
It's
basically the poor district of the dungeon, where it's like, if you're not strong enough or not equipped enough to handle like, uh, well, they don't show any monsters, but I just assumed that there would be monsters down here, probably low level ones. That if you can't even fight them here, then it's like you ain't gonna survive on the clear flow or the maze or anywhere else. The next episode is they in the next time thing, it's titled like the Dead Lament stratum, which implies that we're going to be going to a new stratum next episode. So
yeah,
I
I saw
guess
that too.
I guess yeah, this is the normie check. This is the stat check. If you can't cut it here, you have no business going to any other floor. And that's why there's a bunch of orphans and children here, cuz they just are either not old enough, or maybe they didn't outright call it an orphanage, but that's like obviously what it is.
Yeah. There are children who have been abandoned for one reason or another. And, like that admittedly gets my mind worrying a little bit of like, why are they abandoned? There's probably a bunch of different circumstances for each one. I assume for a lot of them, it's because their parents are strong enough to go into the dungeon and they want to do that. And so they leave their kids at this orphanage, which is kind of sad too.
Yeah, maybe their parents
Like
died.
they don't know like for some of them they don't know if their parents are going to come back. For some of them their parents probably failed the stat check. Uh and something that I thought of that got really dark. What if parents on the outside just like like don't want kids and so just throw them in the dungeon like here.
Hey, I'm going out
It'll
for
take care
cigarettes,
of you.
Billy.
Here you can play in this cave.
Play
And
the
then they
game
just
with all
never
the
come
other
back.
raggedy orphans.
Yeah, and so
And
that was like that's a
supposedly,
legitimately interesting idea
yeah, it's the first like actually neat idea that the show has had in how many episodes?
since it began.
How many episodes? How many like neat? The first idea that has absolutely nothing to do with vending machines.
Well, I guess you could say that Hulami is a good idea. She never goes beyond a good idea, but she never does anything more than be a good idea. But there was the idea, so credit where it's due.
Yes, and so presumably, Shui is also from this orphanage, but she was like one of the ones who was able to grow up and make it in the world, and that's how she got out, joined the Menagerie of Fools, and now every so often will return to the origin stratum, to the orphanage, to be like, "Hey kids, what's up?"
Yeah, and so she gets the right to have Boxo vend infinitely for her for a day. And you think it's going to end in some lame gag of like, oh, Shui's
She's just
just
gonna
gonna
like
have
abuse.
infinite food. But then it's like, no, she actually has like children she wants to feed and
Yeah,
give a good time
altruistic
to.
motives.
Yeah, it's like it makes her character more endearing. It makes you want to learn more about her circumstances and this place. It's like for the first time, the show is kind of like the first time in ages. The show is actually kind of genuinely interesting.
Yeah, it's I did find it pretty sweet that Boxo immediately was like, "Oh, you know what? I know I promised that I would be able to do whatever I can for the prize at the end. So I'm just worried I'm gonna like lose some of my precious points uh being used for free for a day." But as soon as he saw that he was helping out kids in an orphanage, it's like, well, like seeing all this, how could I possibly say no to helping them out. So he gives them all a bunch of food and drinks, makes balloons for them, turns into the water hose and lets them like run around in the water. He heats
Dude,
up
I
the
just want
bath
to
for
spend
them.
the rest of the show here.
Yeah, please let us uh hang out with the kids and not go back to the shitty fucking maze.
If we go to the maze again, I will be genuinely suicidal. But we are going to the Dead's Lament stratum, whatever that is, next episode. Hopefully it's not another... How funny it would be if we go to the Dead's Lament stratum and it's another maze.
It's
This
not
time
like
the bricks
it's
are red.
I was gonna say it's not like a traditional maze where it's like, oh, look at like the high walls and like winding turns. It's like it's a big cave, but it's like a winding labyrinth cave, so it might as well be a maze. It's just like a cave maze.
Imagine if the rest of the stratums are just different colored mazes. Oh my
Holy
God.
shit, this one's purple. Purple is my favorite color.
Oh, we should live in this stratum. Oh God. So, yeah, they do a really good job of selling this stratum of like the kids, because it's all a cave. So, Shui even comments like they don't know the wind or the sun.
That's
Just
fucked up.
yeah, it is.
They're literally incapable of touching grass.
There's no grass anywhere to be seen, and it's just a cool idea that I would love to see expanded upon. It's not going to, because we're going to another stratum next episode, and that's probably where the final 2 episodes of the season will take place. Oh, listen, I can keep on huffing my hopium, all right?
So what kind of monster is gonna be in the Dead Lament stratum? I'm guessing it's either gonna be like some kind of like traditional like a caped demon, maybe even like instead of a monster, it's like a sentient like character, like a named character, or it's gonna be a dragon.
It's called the Dead's Lament stratum, so I assume it's going to be something like really intense. They're gonna be like, "Oh, this is the big boy stratum. This one, like, you don't go here if you're, if you don't know what you're doing." And so it's gonna be a big, scary monster that is probably gonna be really generic looking and not actually that scary. But
Oh
it,
god, here comes the necromite dragon or some shit like that.
the necromite dragon.
They'll go fight the ender
The worst
dragon.
part is calling it the necromite dragon would totally be what a show like this would do. We're in
Yeah.
the Dead Lament stratum. They has to have necro in the name.
If it does have if the boss has a necro anywhere in its name, I'm going to I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna
I'm gonna give it a 1 out of 10 on principle.
Yeah, I'm gonna drop it a point. It's the inverse of the panty rule.
Oh god. And now that we've said that, we know it's gonna have necro in the name. We're gonna lose our shit.
Yeah, the last thing that happens in this show, the episode does end on a very positive note. Because a bunch of criminals once again,
Oh yeah,
for the
I like
5th
this a
time
lot.
this season, try to raid Boxo. He fights them off as usual, but then he shows the footage of them trying to raid him to the director lady, and then the director lady of the orphanage takes up her bow with like a whole quiver full of arrows. It's like, such bad boys lapsing into criminal activity. I'm gonna go have a word with them. Be right back, fam. Then comes back and it's like, oh, it's okay. They won't be bothering us anymore. And then Boxernet's like, huh, her quiver is empty. So it's like she fucking like killed them all probably, or at the very least tortured the shit out of them.
Yeah, I imagine she didn't kill them, but it was like putting them through infinite pain and suffering.
Yeah. The show's too much of a pussy to imply that she actually like killed them in cold blood, but she like did some unspeakable things. Like they're traumatized for life. Like they're gonna close their eyes at night and they're gonna see her in her dreams.
Yeah, and apparently she's the one who taught Shui how to be such a good archer, and she's like actually on par with like really powerful warriors. This little granny who runs an orphanage. Very, very charming. Very charming.
Yeah, so for the first time in what, like a month, we were ended up positive on vending machine isekai.
Yeah, it's like this is easily one of the best episodes of the entire show. Uh I'm putting it under episodes 4 and 1. Just because the first half of it, like if the entire episode was as good as the latter half, it'd be the best episode in the show easily. But it's because of the first half that I do have to sort of dock it just below episodes 4 and 1, which were more well-rounded overall. But otherwise, like it's legitimately like a fun time. 6 out of 10 episode.
Yeah, I think I'd put it around the same spot. It's like a top 3 episode of the show. If only it were this good every time.
If it were this good every time. Uh God, I'm just imagining the version of this show that's actually kinda decent that we imagined all the way back at episode 1 and then didn't happen.
Who could have possibly seen this coming? I
Oh
can't believe
no, not
vending machine
us.
isekai didn't turn out to be as good as it was. We thought it would be. It would be even better because it's peak, baby.
Hell yeah, see you next week.